Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Monday Review Show. Today, we're looking at NFL Week 5. Lots of drama yesterday, and of course, we had the first round of the London game as the Minnesota Vikings beat the New York Jets. There's also drama in the late game as Fred's Steelers lost a close one, Fred, against the Dallas Cowboys. I know, but it was a great game if you stayed up for it. So, yeah, lots to go through. Obviously, we'll have which everyone looks forward to. I've got the free stats again, guys. I feel like we've ironed out the kinks now. We're ready for that segment. But yeah, I guess we should start talking about the London game. Obviously, nice and early for all those across the pond, which they seem to be receptive of. Obviously, you get 4 games in a row. The Vikings, at one point, Fred, it looked like it was going to be a blowout. So for us in the stadium, anyone watching, it was nice that the Jets made it competitive and it went down to the end, right?
Yeah, it was. It was a really fun watch in the first half. Anyway, it felt like the second half sort of dragged a little bit, if I'm honest. We're going to be talking more in depth about that tomorrow, aren't we? Me and you on the show. Mm-hmm. So we're just talking about the game today. But 17-7 at half time. They looked like they were going to run away with it. I think the injury to Aaron Jones really sort of knocked the sort of momentum that the Vikings had on their offense, and it sort of made them like lose a step in a way. I think Ty Chandler did a good job. To be fair, the backup he was pretty okay. But it was an incredibly equal game, actually, when it fizzled down to it. Not that anyone thought that was going to be the case. Well, I think they didn't, I suppose, because this Jets defense is pretty decent. But there was only 1 yard in it, the total offense between the both of them. I think Vikings got that 1 extra yard compared to the Jets. But the only difference was they ran the ball way better. They ran it for 82 yards to Jets 36. They were good. It was exactly what the Vikings have been doing. Good offense, solid defense. They're leading the league they led the league before the game in QB hurries, pressures, sacks, interceptions, and then they added more to that on the day, and obviously got a pick 6 as well with Andrew Van Ginkel. So. Yeah, I mean, they're joint top with the Packers now on 8 interceptions, 17 sacks. Like I said, number 1. I think what we're now seeing, though, is that the pass defense is pretty poor for this team. And that was evident in the game as well. I mean, they're 31st worst in pass defense. And Rodgers, at some points, it felt like he was gaining momentum in that second half. I mean, I know he led him all the way down the field for the Stephon Gilmore interception in the end to seal the game, but he was moving the ball a lot more freely in the second half. But yeah, it was crucial for the Jets got some points on the board for the half, because it felt like it was it was a bit of a snowball down the mountain. It was starting to build momentum and get bigger and bigger until it would destroy everything. So an equal running of a game, considering people maybe didn't feel that it was going to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, I know you were saying, Fred, about the Vikings and Packers. Adam, I saw your face. I think the Vikings now are on 11 interceptions with the 3 that they've overtaken your boys. I know you're on 9. It was obviously super impressive under Brian Flores. Aaron Rodgers spoke in the week about going up against that defense, multiple packages, but this was them proving themselves. I know they done it to the Texans, but it almost felt like, just because of the name Aaron Rodgers and to do what they did to him, it almost like putting the rest of the league on notice that like the defense is legit. Did you get that feeling as well from what you saw in terms of the whole performance?
Not especially. I felt like Rodgers
there was a bit of bend don't break. I get that. Obviously, they weren't perfect, but
I felt like Rodgers had a pretty poor game, to be honest. I didn't think he did very well. The first interception to Van Ginkel for the pick 6 was kind of just, it was a bit of a low throw. It was just I don't quite know why it just wasn't high enough to get over him. And so, I mean, I suppose you could come out and say, congratulate Van Ginkel for obviously getting in the way and being there. But and then the second one was a massive overthrow, like a huge overthrow to the corner or the safety. I can't remember, that came across to pick it up. They got another interception, didn't they, right at the very end as well? So I think the Vikings, as Fred said, the defense it's a very strong defense against the run, and when it comes to the pass, it is struggling, and it is kind of a bit bend don't break. But I mean, they were up against an offense that have not put up many points in most of their games this season, and to be honest, don't really look like they're going to anytime soon either. So it felt very much like I think to a certain degree, the Vikings defense is good because it's taking out the run from any team that it plays against, which is obviously a really important thing to be able, because if you stop that, then it really does make it a lot harder for teams. But I mean, their pass defense has a lot left to be desired, to say the least.
Do you think, Adam, that with the Vikings now undefeated, weirdly, it's a bad time for them to have a bye? Do you think they want to ride this momentum even more? Because obviously they've got the Lions after the bye.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think you'd want to just keep going, wouldn't you? If you're in this sort of momentum, you don't want it to stop for anything. I know, it was mentioned, wasn't it? Always the trip across to London going to cause a problem for them, and obviously I would argue that it was one of their poorer games this season. I think they've played much better, but they still got the job done because of who they were up against. So I think that because of that, they kind of got away with it a little bit, but at the same time, the whole game, to me, it felt like they always had the Jets at arm's length all the way through. It never felt like, I know a lot of people say, towards the end, it kind of got a bit exciting. It didn't really. To me, it didn't feel like they were ever gonna get in ahead of them, or it would have been surprising had they done. So, yeah, I think it is a bad time for them because they've just got momentum. So why would you want to stop it?
Yeah, Fred, and with the Jets, obviously asked Rodgers this, but you're better looking than Aaron Rodgers, so your opinion matters more. Where do the Jets go from here? They've got the Bills on Monday Night Football. They've got your Steelers after that. I do agree with what he said in terms of they probably will go on a run at some point if they stay healthy, because there's talent on this roster and Morgan Moses will come back. There'll be players who will return. But yeah, obviously it doesn't get any easier with that Monday Night Football game coming up.
I think the positive they can take is that they held the Vikings to one touchdown. Like that's this team has been really good this year, and they've been scoring very freely, and they haven't to one touchdown. That's pretty remarkable. And and they had some great turnovers as well. They really disrupted Sam. So they can be happy with their defense. They can also be happy in the fact that Garrett Wilson is a legit wide receiver. Yeah. But their whole offense at the minute runs through Garrett Wilson. What was it? 13 receptions on the day in the end.
Yeah, 101 and 13 catches. Yeah,
easily outdid everybody else. And they've got a guy on their roster who rushed for 994 yards last year and 5 touchdowns. Where is Breece Hall? He has done nothing this year so far. Absolutely nothing. They're one of the worst rushing teams in the NFL at the minute. Braylon Allen has looked really good in spots, admittedly, but I don't think he's a lead back. Breece Hall is seen as a top 5 running back in this league, and he's done nothing so far this year. And yeah, they've had their injuries on the O line, but I think this game really showed. But yes, Rodgers, you can rely on Rodgers to make great plays, but I don't know if you can rely on him to carry you through the game anymore. He took a knock and he looked pretty shook up by that. And, it's like age has caught with him. You know what I mean? There's some of these quarterbacks in this league this year. Matt Stafford's another one where age seems to have really creeped in with all of them, and they don't seem to bounce back as quick. And of course they don't. That's obviously that's genetics, but it's becoming more and more obvious. And Aaron Rodgers isn't that gunslinger and isn't that guy who could carry a team on his back like he was in Green Bay. So they have to get this run game going to alleviate that pressure on him. So yeah, I think they've got a lot to learn. They've got a lot to come to them. And I feel like they think their Super Bowl window is sort of now, but compared to the other teams that are in that Super Bowl bubble now, at this current moment in time, they're miles off offensively, miles off.
Adam, we both did a little theory on retwitch there with when Matthew Stafford was mentioned.
Well, it's not so much Stafford, and I think it's bad O-line play.
Yeah,
I really do, and
I-
it's injuries as well. Because in both circumstances, they've had injuries on their O line, and they're not doing very well, which is what is causing the run game to be an issue for the Jets, especially. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how you guys felt in the stadium. I know we're only doing the game, but there was a few times where Rodgers went down, and it did feel like, is he actually going to get up? You know, that genuinely did feel a little bit like he was struggling at times. So that's a problem. Obviously, Breece Hall is a problem, and yeah, Garrett Wilson has done well, but I mean, he's been quiet as well this season. He hasn't been great. I mean, he had a good
He
game
needed the
yesterday,
game.
but before that, he's been quiet. And yeah, it just feels like it's the Jets being the Jets. It's like nothing's really changed. I mean, you know, they haven't been good. Last time they were good, the dinosaurs were going around, weren't they? So it's like they're not like they're just not going to do anything different.
I know I only reflect on the game, but just one observation, I would say that Rodgers seems to protect the team and his teammates. Like the young guys on that team are very level-headed and likable. Breece Hall, Wilson, Sauce, and I feel like Rodgers has even alluded to the Jets being bad historically and is almost protecting them in a way. And Garrett Wilson's had that big game, and now New York will get off his back, and then it'll be beat on Breece Hall's back now. Because even though, like you said, he hasn't had the best season, no one's been talking about it. They've just been like, oh, this is good because we've got Braden Allen and we could do a 1-2 punch. But I bet you all week now it'll be, oh, Breece Hall's had a bad game, but Garrett Wilson looked amazing. It's just the joys of, I guess, being in New York. But do you know what, actually, before we move on, I know me and Fred spoke, we were complimenting you off air, Adam, about your Derrick Henry observation last week with
So you should.
You know, do you think Breece Hall is maybe that type of back? I know obviously Braden Allen is, but do you think he needs to be a guy to wear people down and get more touches? Because last year he was the main guy. There was no competition. Well, I know Braden Allen's really good, but sometimes when you have a 1-2 punch, it takes away.
They did have Michael Carter doing a bit.
Yeah, I'm also not. That sounds really bad to say not his biggest fan. He's injury prone, is what I mean.
Oh yeah.
No, but Carter, like,
it's not quite the same. I don't think it's not. You're probably not far off. I think with most running backs, it's like it, isn't it? The more they get the ball, the more they're going to do. It's just that simple. The more you wear down the defense on the other team, you know, it's like it's just a common thing. But I think with Henry, it's more so just purely because of his size and his stature. It must be horrific just constantly having that coming up against you all the time. And it's funny because
the Bengals.
yeah, well, exactly. But you say that, but they did pretty well. You know, I mean, we'll talk about it in a minute, but they did pretty well. But it didn't matter because although they stopped the run, at the end of it, he still came through with a massive run, and this is the problem. So it's a similar thing. I think with all running backs, it's similar, but yeah. I think slightly different if you've got Henry coming running at you. I think all game long.
Yeah, let's just caveat. I'm not saying that Breece Hall is going to be a future Hall of Famer. Like he's got the talent.
I think you did. I think that was exactly where you were going.
So. Henry's there, but I do like Breece Hall, and he likes Austin Powers. And if he ever watches this, Shagadelic, baby. There we go. On to Bengals Ravens. Well, that was a pretty Shagadelic performance from both quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. They both played great. Me and Fred were sat there like, this is an AFC North game. This is
did it get you, Randy?
Baby. Yeah. But
I'm sorry. I should have done the Austin Powers thing there. Sorry.
No, we were both shocked. Well, Fred being a Steelers fan, that it was so high scoring, elite play from both. Let's start with the positives, Fred. Obviously, Adam was touched upon Derrick Henry there. Great game. Lamar Jackson played phenomenal. You know, the Ravens now 2 weeks in a row look like the team that we thought they would be. They're just going to go on from strength, surely, especially after beating a rival in the way they did.
Yeah, I mean, MVP conversation closed at the minute. Like it's got like how good he is on the ground and in the air. Like I've said, I know I've said this quite a lot. I've said it a lot on the podcast this year and in multiple times in other ones. But like, I really, as much as I'm a Steeler, I love how Jackson has battled adversity coming like with injuries and the fact that he was totally wrote off as a thrower. And, he goes 26, 42, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, 12 carries for 55 yards, total 520 yards. Like, that's it. That offense is cooking. I mean, he is going from strength to strength, and probably the most exciting quarterback to watch in NFL at the minute. Maybe next to someone like Jane Daniels, which is obviously hilarious given that he's a rookie. But he's so exciting to watch, and he's gone from a quarterback. The only thing where I go, like, I think it's we're starting to believe that this year is he's gone from a quarterback where I believe he can lead the team down to win the game. You know what I mean? Like, he's very, very talented, but he would be I would see you sort of see him in drives where you're like, well, the Ravens need this drive to win the game, and it's a little bit like the whole Lamar can't do it in the playoffs sort of thing. Like, it's actually this year
getting over that now.
It feels, doesn't it feel? I think it feels like that. It feels like he's
that play yesterday, the one where he was out of the pocket and into Likely was at the back of the end zone.
Insane.
Insane.
I mean, this offense good. There's 7th in passing yards, 5th in passing touchdowns, 1st in rushing yards, and 3rd in rushing touchdowns. Like, that's a complementary offense. That is an offense that does both really, really well. He's only thrown 1 pick this year as well, which is even, but they really stuck it to the Bengals. The Bengals did made a valiant effort to keep up with them, and it was the Bengals' best game by far offensively. Did this one. But the thing they do need to work on is it's a bit like the Jets, is their pass defense. Their run defense is amazing. They are number 1 in rushing yards. They've only allowed 302, but they are 31st in passing yards. They've allowed 1,401, which obviously Joe Burrow has added significantly to that yesterday. So they need to focus on that. They need to tighten that up. If they are going to be a legit Super Bowl contender this year, that's where they need to tighten up. I know Marlon Humphrey had a pick yesterday, and they played well yesterday, but they still allowed 38 points to the Bengals. Like, I know the Bengals are probably a lot better than we'll talk about, I'm sure, in a second, but they're a lot better than their record states anyway. I mean, they are must see TV at the minute, and they're phenomenal offensively, and and they do it with no one really. Zay Flowers isn't all right receiver. Rashad Bateman's not all that. Nelson Aguilar's not all that. I mean, Mark Andrews.
Charlie Kohler suddenly became amazing yesterday as well.
The is it Kohler?
Kohler.
Koala
Koala.
And he was phenomenal yesterday. Isaiah Likely, this isn't. It ain't Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, on the other side, is it? Mike Gesicki, for his said worth, is a decent tight end as well. So I annoyingly, as a Steeler fan, I think Ravens are must-watch TV. They're the team to beat at the minute, I think.
Yeah, Adam, with the Bengals, when I woke up this morning with Joe Burrow, I still think he's an argument for a top 3 quarterback, top 4 on his talent. He's so good. He's giving me Matthew Stafford like Lions at the moment. It seems like whatever he does, like when Stafford on the Lions, he's got the talent, he's capable of winning a Super Bowl, but for some reason, each week something just happened. Like, they could have beat the Chiefs. We could be sitting here saying, "Oh, the Bengals lost to the Patriots week 1, but then they went and beat the Chiefs and the Ravens." But for some reason, they've just fallen short in both of them. Like, given their record at the moment, Fred was obviously 100% right. We've said it before. The talent on that team and him doesn't reflect the record that they have, but like their playoff chances now are really slim.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough, isn't it? 1-4. I mean, that's hard work. I mean, I still think they're more than capable. The offense is very good. You saw that the offense can be very good. It became a shootout, didn't it? This game is basically what it was. The first half was strange, was quite quiet, and then it became a shootout in the second half, where I think the Bengals went for the decision of we've got to stop one or the other, and they just said, right, we're going to stop the run. That's what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and stop Derrick Henry, and largely they did, to be honest. I mean, he only got 92 yards, so and bear in mind that run at the end was about 50, I think it was. So I mean, they pretty much bottled him up quite well, but they kind of went, well, we've got to do that, and then basically you're relying on Lamar to not be able to use the receivers well enough in order to be able to do it. And unfortunately for anybody else in the NFL, this goes to show that he is more than capable of doing it this way. But I think what you'll find is that they will resort back to the run being the main thing for the Ravens. But yeah, I mean, they can win either way. They are in a strong sort of like momentum at the moment, and they look really good. I think they will probably just continue to do that. And the Bengals, I think they kind of have to take the positives out of it, which is basically that they've got their offense going now, and their offense looks really good, but that defense is clearly not fantastic. It can be scored on. As Fred said, these receivers for the Ravens are not. I think Zay Flowers is good, but I don't think he's amazing. And that's probably about as good as it gets, to be honest, with the whole of the receiving core on the Ravens side. But yeah, I think that it's not impossible for them to get there, but it's going to be tough, obviously, at 1-4. And I don't know with Joe Burrow. I just, like you say, it kind of, it's a bit of a, it doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, like the talent is there, the weapons are around him. The O-line actually isn't awful, but still the wins aren't coming.
Remember that was the only issue, that when they made the Super Bowl was the O-line, and the O-line's actually not that bad this season.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's not too bad. But again, still they can't get the win, and it's strange.
They can't run the ball though. They're 26th.
They're getting they do miss Joe Mixon. I will admit I think that's a big loss.
I never thought I'd say or agree with that, but yeah, I know they do.
Yeah. It's going to be a big. You're saying about the defense really need to step up, Adam. Like Dax Hill now out of the season from looks of it. That's pretty big for them. Like really, really big. But
and Zach Moss, I know to defense, but offensively, when last time we said Zach Moss went down.
Yeah, I think they're better with Chase Brown. Personally, I think Chase Brown is a slightly closer. Yeah. He's a slightly closer sort of like to Joe Mixon than what Zach Moss is. I think they're a little bit better with that, and he's doing a bit better by getting a bit more of the ball. But I think you saw with the Texans, didn't you? That first couple of games when Mixon was fit, how good Mixon is, and I think a lot of people probably just didn't think of him in that way until that he's now gone. So yeah, I think the Bengals are struggling a bit without him.
But the other 1-4 teams are the Patriots, the Browns, the Jags, Panthers, and the Rams. Like, are we thinking that the I in my brain, Bengals are a way better team than all of them?
Yeah, they're lucky. They've got the Giants and the Browns, I think, in the next 2 games.
Yeah, Giants and Browns,
and then the Eagles. So obviously, like, you get to the point where they need to win these next 2. In any way, it could be convincing.
Yeah, but that's not going to be as easy as you think it is, because the Giants.
It's a bad time to play the Giants.
The Giants are starting to look all right. They've looked all right last couple of weeks, but they're starting. They did well this week, and then of course, the Browns they should beat. And who was the other one? The Eagles after that. I mean, that's going to be a tough game, isn't it? So you could quite easily be looking at 2-6.
Yeah.
At that point,
wild, isn't it? Really?
Yeah,
I know. Hopefully not. That Eagles-Bengals game could get to a point where it's like loser doesn't make the playoffs or something. I mean, the Eagles have just had their bye now, but depending on what happens between now and that game, it will be crazy. But we'll move on. We'll move on to the Niners and Cardinals. Adam was really excited to talk about this when we were going through last night. No, you weren't.
Was I?
No, you weren't. I've only picked this game because I picked the Cardinals to win. It was.
So you picked it to gloat, basically.
Yeah. We don't even need any analysis, really. Just tell me why the Niners are not as good as they were last year. Adam, you can go first, or Fred, you can go. Yeah, whoever wants to.
Adam can take.
I think the reason that the Niners are not as good as what they were last year is because they have a certain running back out injured. And I was really shocked by what happened in this game, because at half time they were 23-10 up, and then they didn't score another point at all. Weird. So that was really surprising. Purdy had 2 interceptions, didn't look particularly great, both in the second half as well. They did manage to get the ball down towards the goal line, and then Jordan Mason fumbled. That was a big problem that they had there, which then I think the Cardinals then went up the other end and scored. So, yeah, it was a struggle for them. They struggled against the run, which was a little bit surprising. They've normally been pretty good against the run, but they did struggle. Connor got 86 yards. Kyler Murray got 83 and his touchdown, but that was a lot of that came quite early on for Murray. But yeah, it was a weird game where I think to a certain, I mean, I wouldn't like to say it, but you sort of feel almost like they felt that they had it in hand almost at half time.
That's so funny you say that, because I wrote in my notes, I think the 49ers went into cruise control.
Yeah,
it went way too relaxed. It felt for me.
Yeah, that was kind of how it felt, and yeah, it was a struggle. One thing I would say on the Cardinals side, I thought that they were much better by having McBride out there. I think Murray was a lot more comfortable with him being out there.
Like, you love him; he's so good.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't even. Where I said I didn't ever know where to begin, Fred. So I was just going to say, because they gave up 249 yards in the first half, and then they managed. I think the Niners got to the red zone 6 times, and as Adam said, 1 touchdown. It's just I can't really process how they done it. But
it was a gutsy performance. It was a really gutsy performance by Arizona, and like, you know, like I'll say about the 49ers in a moment. I'll speak about the Cardinals first. But like, Adam, you've been so right about this team the whole time. They are constantly fun to watch.
Just keep saying I'm right. That's fine. That's all you need to say.
They are there. They're so fun to watch. But and they did it into, you know, like, they're sort of infamous for Kyler running around stuff like. I mean, I know Kyler's got a decent arm, but like, you know, they had 26 carries and 30 throws. Like we said about complementary offense earlier, like that's what they did really well in this game. James Conner seems to be playing the best football he's ever played at the minute, which is really good. Obviously, Trey McBride is so good, and when he was missing for Kyler last week, he was missing last week, wasn't he? He was in,
when they lost.
Yeah, and it's noticeable. He's a fantastic tight end, and he seems to have now found that link with Marvin Harrison, which is obviously just going to be, you know, poetry in motion for the rest of his career, I can imagine. Yeah, but they're not blowing any, like, stats wise. When you look at actually how they're playing, they're not like, they're middle of the pack for everything. They're very all okay at everything. Like, the only thing they're 4th in rushing yards. They've got 782 rushing yards so far. Like that, so, you know, obviously that's the one thing they do really, really well. But that, you know, it's all very balanced. And that's what they probably need. Like, their defense obviously needs to get better. I mean, you know, you can run on them. They've allowed 739 yards and 8 touchdowns. So, you know, their secondary seems to be pretty decent. And after, you know, the conversations we've been having this evening, it sounds like, you know, Cardinals are sort of the reverse of everyone else we've spoken about, really.
Yeah.
So people can run on them, but you know, I don't think this team now that, you know, I don't think this is like a landmark win where this is now like the start of something for them. I just think they do things quite well. It was the 49ers to lose, but my thing with the 49ers is, I said this about the Vikings when they didn't make the play, when they just snuck into the playoffs, I think, and then the year after they went on that undefeated streak. The Vikings that season, they were just on the wrong end of results. It was that year where they lost like 8 games by like 5 or less points. Like, every game was really close, but they just kept losing. And when you look at the Chiefs, they're 4-0, but all their games have been close and they've been on the right side of winning. Whereas the 49ers have gone the other way, where they've had games that have been really close and actually probably fell short and then and it's just their margins. It's their margins, but I find them sort of runs can be hard to stop. You know, it can be hard. It can be a bit of a trendsetter where you just, you know, if we could have just got that completion, or, you know, Jordan Mason doesn't fumble the ball there, or we just get that first down and convert on that 3rd and long, and it's them fine margins that might define 49ers season. They have lost a step. That, you know, injuries have not helped them at all. They've had injuries all over the park, and obviously the big one was obviously Christian McCaffrey, but they have lost a step this year, or maybe the rest of the NFL was just caught up with them. You know, yeah. I think there might be a bit of that as well. But you know, if I've put here about it feels like an empty calories team. They do really well stats wise, but they don't seem to be scoring that much. Like, I know Juwan Jennings had that big week the other week, but like this game especially felt like a bit of an empty calories game where, you know, and I think Adam's really, you know, it was so funny that you said about they came out in the second half looking like that they felt like they had the game in hand. Like, and it's like, no, you've watched this Cardinals offense this year, you need to really take them seriously. you can't let up on them because they're a good offense.
Yeah, it did. I know I was saying it when you guys talk. It just felt like similar to when the Raiders obviously beat the Ravens earlier in the season. Just felt like they almost got a bit complacent. Before we move on, though, Kyler Murray, he's only had one game over 250 yards, but I feel like eye test wise, he's looked good. 7 touchdowns, 2 picks on the year. Like he's not like Fred said, he's not doing maybe. I know we do see him run around, but he's not doing overly as much as he's done in previous years. They've built around him and he's looked more than competent. Do you think he's progressed as a quarterback?
Yeah, he's all right, isn't he? You know, he seems to be doing okay. I think his the problem was his injury, wasn't it? It's just about getting him fit again, and that was the issue previously. And now that he comes across as though he's fit now and he's got his legs and he scampers across whenever he wants to, you know. So he can do that. And this is he's got the passing game as well, hasn't he? You know, this is the thing. It's like this is kind of like, I suppose really it's kind of what you're seeing with Jaden Daniels. It's the same sort of thing where these guys are not only can they, you know, they have the ability to use their legs if they need to, but they can pass the ball as well, and that's what you need to be able to do in this modern NFL. So yeah, I think he's looking all right and he's looking fit, and he will probably only get better all the time that he's got Marvin Harrison there, because although Marvin Harrison didn't have a great game yesterday, it takes away the defenders and it opens up the other guys, and that's where he's gonna, you know, do well, because he's got some decent, you know, they're not amazing, but he's got some decent guys there. I mean, Michael Wilson isn't bad,
I like it.
And you know, obviously he's got McBride there as well, so yeah, he's got some good weapons there.
The difference between him and Daniels though is about 4 feet.
Well, I mean, yeah, there is
as much as he can play well, I just don't think anyone can get over the height.
We can't get over the O-line. That's the problem, isn't it? Not about getting over the height. I mean,
you do see. I don't think it matters as much as people make out.
I don't know.
Not with a scrambling quarterback.
I don't know.
And even Drew Brees
basically what you're saying is that if it was because Bryce Young being small, it's a problem because he doesn't run hard. Yeah. But obviously,
he's nowhere near the talent of a Drew Brees. Drew Brees made it work because he had the Hall of Fame arm and he had the brain. That's probably once in a generation that's kind of works. With Kyler Murray, I know you see different people say like, oh, well, the height doesn't always impact because it depends on the offense and depends on the passes that you're throwing. But with Kyler Murray, he makes space, he gets out the pockets. I don't think it's as much of an impact. I'm glad you said Bryce Young because I couldn't think of some, but that is the perfect comparison. So
it's always difficult when you got to get a ladder out, isn't it, to see over the O-line? I mean, that's when the problem comes in.
I'm pretty sure you can go to Mexico, snap your legs, and get an extra 2 inches in height. So maybe someone needs to do that.
That's a legit thing.
Yeah, I was sure I watched a documentary on it.
Of course you have. Of course, of all the people here, you are the one who's seen the documentary.
I need it. But speaking of Jaden Daniels, the Commanders, obviously we do the recap of the scores. Commanders beat the Browns 34-13. Another team that put up 34 points was Denver Broncos beating the Raiders. Adam, your Packers, you know, got the win. And I actually picked them.
It was a long game. It went on for it was like it was a tough watch though. It was a struggle. It really was. But they did okay. Second half, I think the offense was a lot better than what it was first half. But it was a struggle.
The Seahawks choked against the Giants.
No, Giants look good. You won't like it, but the Giants look decent. Eli Manning
jersey, I'm worried.
I've not watched the highlights, but I've listened to some NFL shows today, and like they were saying, like no one really wants to say it, but Daniel Jones is playing pretty well. But because we just all jumped on so quickly, he needs to be out of New York thing.
I need to. I'm going.
He was all right. He wasn't good. He wasn't bad. He was all right. But their defense is decent.
Did it without Malik Neighbours as well.
Yeah, that's the other
impressive.
thing.
That was the impressive part, I have to say. But enough of that. Enough Giants. Good talk. We don't want any of that. Caleb Williams finally had a great game. Now, I did say, Adam, to Fred yesterday that this was a get-right game for Chicago. I think if they didn't have a good offensive performance, and that was just it. Like, it was good to see them, obviously, him do his thing. Good throws to DJ Moore, 36-10. Texans outlasted the Bills. That was a close one. The Jags, which, again, one that I picked in the pool. Bogey. What was the stat you pulled out, Fred? Was it that they haven't won? The Colts haven't won in Jacksonville in 10 years. Did you say it? Or someone told us
no, that's sort. I wish that was me, if I could just pull that sort of fact out of nowhere. But that was not me who said that.
Someone told us that.
I think it was Alex, our friend Alex.
Someone definitely, and we were like, and I was like, I picked them without even knowing that. I just felt it was a thing. It was.
I said it's like the Crystal Palace against Liverpool thing.
Yeah.
Like Liverpool never win at Palace. Palace always beat them there. Like it's like that sort of comparison. But yeah, it's impressive that you picked them, admittedly.
Yeah, well, I also picked my Patriots, which is the last one to recap on the week, and we lost to the Dolphins. I haven't watched a replay, but Adam, apparently it was Boston Twitter, but apparently Jalen Polk might have been in bounds. Was there controversy or was he out of bounds? Did you see
No
it?
idea. Didn't see it.
I'll check it after. Me and Fred talk about
I take no interest in the Patriots whatsoever.
My heart
go to VAR.
My heart bleeds. Right, before we move on to Monday Night Football, let's do the stats. You got your pen? Is there pen and paper?
I have to have a pen and paper.
I never remember them otherwise.
No, I don't ever remember them.
The only funny part is that I haven't got in my head which one I'm going to change to the lie. So I need to wing this. So you're picking the... Wait, why have I forgot what we do? We said we ironed the kinks out, or I said that.
You said that. We did. We both legitimately knew that you were lying when you said that.
Yeah.
We both telepathically went, no, he hasn't.
You're picking the lie.
Okay.
So only Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Kurt Warner have had more passing yards than CJ Stroud in their first 20 games.
More passing yards in their first 20 games.
Yeah, only those three.
Who were the three? Mahomes,
Herbert, Warner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mahomes, Herbert, Warner. Okay.
This should be a show, like just in life. This should be a thing. Like we should all be on ESPN. This should be a thing. Lamar Jackson is couldn't even say the word. Second player in NFL history with multiple career games with, get ready, at least 300 passing yards, 50 rushing yards, and 4 touchdown passes. Because that's what he did yesterday against the Bengals.
Wait, 300 rushing, 300 passing yards.
300 rushing? My God, he ran a lot.
50 rushing and 4 passing touchdowns.
And 4 passing touchdowns.
So he's
only the second player.
Second player in history to have multiple games with that stat line.
Who's the first?
Michael Vick.
Oh, okay.
And then Jaden Daniels is the third rookie quarterback since 1950 to start and win 4 of his team's first 5 games, joining 2 other players, Joe Ferguson of the Bills in 1973. Shout out, Joe. And Dak Prescott, 2016 with the Cowboys. Shout out, Dak. I'm sorry, this is not relevant, but that play he made was insane.
He's so good.
Yeah. Fair play to Dak, because he gets a lot of stick. I just had to stick up for him there. Cam Newton would have been crying watching it, like I said in the chat.
What's your first initial thoughts, Adam?
No, I can't read my writing.
I don't want to plant the flag just yet, but I'm veering towards the first one's not right.
I think Lamar's right.
I think Lamar's right as well.
Because I don't think he would have known about Michael Vick. So I reckon he's obviously read that somewhere.
The guy who first Madden I bought with Michael Vick.
No, I don't think you'd have known the stat
we
being
know
Michael
who
Vick.
Michael Vick
No,
is.
I know. Yeah, I know that you know who Michael Vick is, you idiot. Who were the other two rookies?
Joe Ferguson and Dak Prescott.
I'm going for the first one.
I'm going for the first one as well. I think someone like Aaron Rodgers would maybe or Matt Stafford would maybe be in that list as well.
Ready?
No.
Very.
So the Jaden Daniels one is true. He is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you said, the one about CJ Stroud is actually true.
Really?
Yeah. I made up the Michael Vick thing on the spot.
Wow.
Lamar Jackson is the only player. He's the first player in NFL history to have multiple career games with 300 passing yards, 50 rushing yards, and 4 touchdown passes. He also reached those marks in week 5 as well of the 2021 season.
I'm very impressed that you just said Michael Vick just like that. And even more ashamed that me and Adam just went like, yeah.
But who was it who went, who else?
I said who else?
Yeah, and I was just like,
fair.
In my head, everyone asking me all weekend, why do you support the Patriots? Madden 04. I was like, Michael Vick. Boom, go.
Very good, very quick.
Stats are for mugs.
Wow. All those people who do Opta are going to be...
Oh, well, they're the worst. So, you know.
They're going to be gutted. Well, we won't pull any Opta stats out then for Monday Night Football. Obviously, we had the Saints going to Arrowhead. I can't remember what I said in my... well, I know I picked the Chiefs, but I mean, in my prediction video, Derek Carr's like 3-12 at Arrowhead.
Oh, really?
Something like that. I'll quickly fact check that. But I feel like the Saints are...
That would have been on the Raiders, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course. So
that's a completely irrelevant stat.
I said I wasn't going to do
So
any
I'm sticking to the point that stats are for mugs, okay?
14. It's even worse.
Who cares?
Well, he doesn't like it.
I don't even know what anyone likes Arrowhead. I don't think because it's so noisy.
Was it Wednesday night at Stoke, a Monday night at Arrowhead? This is it now. This is the world that we're in. Do the Saints have a chance? Because I feel like their bubbles burst already. I feel like I'm maybe being harsh, but I feel like everyone after 2 weeks, oh my God, the Saints. And I was just sort of sitting there like, it's probably going to stop pretty soon.
I think my problem is the Chiefs on paper 4-0 are just not the force that they were.
Yeah.
Like, they're not, unless they've got so many injuries. And, all their games, their biggest win margin has been by 7 points, and that's in two of them 4 games. Yeah. The other 2 games was less than 7. Like, this will, I think this is going to be very low scoring. Very low scoring. Mm-hmm. I think Chiefs defense will do really well against the Saints offense. I still think the Chiefs will win. They've not blown anyone away, the Chiefs, yet. They are injury prone, injury riddled, with Pacheco and obviously Rashee Rice. So but Mahomes can do it with anyone. We've seen it happen before. Like you said, the fact that they're going to Arrowhead, on a night game, Monday Night Football, is a bit of a like, if any game they were going to lose, it's going to be this one, the Chiefs, because of like it's under the spotlight, and obviously they're going to have to lose a game at some point. So I think it will be a close game, though. I think it will really run to the wire. To be honest with you, I don't know what Adam feels about it. He'll have the over/under.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's going to be tight. It's going to be low scoring. Both defenses are good against. Both are good against the run. Top 10 against the run, and they're kind of middle when it comes to against the pass. They're pretty similar. Not a particularly exciting game, I don't think. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be a particularly exciting team to watch based on what we've seen so far. It feels like when you look at who they've played. They played the Ravens and sort of squeaked by, didn't they? They got 27 points in that one, 26 against the Bengals. So they can put up points, but obviously, like you say, with Pacheco and Rice out, it does sort of like temper that offense down a bit. I can see a similar sort of result to what happened when they played the Chargers last week, which was they won 17-10, well, maybe a little bit more, but not a lot more. So, yeah, I think it'll be quite a close, low-scoring game. I won't be staying up.
The Chiefs' defense is ranked 7th in points allowed. I think it's 18 per game. So, yeah, I think the Saints will be under that, even though they've got, I know people will go Olave and Shaheed.
I think they're very good against the run as well, aren't like as in like against running back, not just yards but touchdowns as well. So that I think that's going to affect Kamara certainly.
Saints are also they've cut back-to-back losses, haven't they? They lost to the Eagles and the Falcons, but both games are really close.
Yeah,
so they hang with teams. Like, the Chiefs will not blow them away. They will hang with him, and I would if I was trying to be a bit more bold, I'd maybe pick Saints and just say that if it was maybe at New Orleans, I'd maybe pick the Saints. But the fact that it's at Arrowhead, I think it obviously does change the dynamic. It's still a tough stadium.
I'm sure there was one game when he was on the Raiders and Adams has where like Derek Carr. Well, obviously he did win 3 of them, but I feel like there was one particular like shootout game, and I was like, holy crap!
There was a game. There was a game not last year, obviously, but there may be a year before. It was about 3-4 years ago where they beat them in the week 3, I think. It was really early, really early, and they beat them at Allegiant Stadium. And I think it was when they just moved into that stadium as well. So it might not even.
There was one on the roads that Derek Carr. I don't know. I mean, look, I was harsh on him in the off season, and they started well. They've still got weapons. I just think that you guys said it multiple times in that the Chiefs' defense has stepped up the last couple of years now. We know how good they are, and people now see that. And even though they respect it, they still can't beat it because there are playmakers on that team. So I think.
But then there is on the Saints defense as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Marcus is meowing, but Marcus Davenport's not there anymore. So there you go. They've still got other guys there. I don't know why. And when he meows, I'm worried that something's going to happen in terms of like, I feel like it's a cue that the Saints might win. I'm not going to change my mind though.
Mystic Marcus.
Yeah. Man. What last week did you? I can't remember. Last Monday Night Football, was it the doubleheader again? You picked the Titans, Fred.
Did I? Mate, I am so tired after the week we've had.
I remember you said you've got to pick them one week till they win, and you were like,
and I did
change it on the pool. I'm sure you had the Titans, so maybe the Saints can do it. I'm still sticking with the Chiefs in terms of score lines. I know you both alluded to low scoring, but what would you go for with the Chiefs?
I think 2014.
Okay.
Really? Okay.
It's 2024, mate, not 2014.
If only it was 2014.
I think 22. No, you know, I don't think Chiefs are going to put 20 plus points up, but I think the Saints will. So, I think the Saints got a bit of, a really good offense. To be fair, I'm going to go with 23-19.
I've also realised that we've got through a full episode without Fred being annoyed about fantasy football.
Oh.
And it's occurred to me, Fred, that you're down by 17 points with Harrison Butker against me.
Unless Harrison Butker starts throwing touchdowns and running the ball.
Imagine if he pulled out a trick play. Like, say they're down like 19-16, right? And it's like a 23-yard chip field, and then Harrison Butker pulls that trick.
Oh, mate, if we did, then it'd be incredible. I've lost both games on fantasy this week, and I was like, I did definitely thought I was going to win the other one, but he had Joe Burrow, and he got like 36 points, something like that. So I was pretty like, I think I've got this sort of thing when I went to bed, and it hasn't happened. But obviously, me and you were together last night, and we were keeping an eye on the fantasy anyway, weren't we? And we did sort of say that it was running. Like the predictor thing, I think it works quite.
I've started to give up with the predictor. I mean, the fact that I said to you that Jalen Tolbert was going to have a big game because Brandon Cooks is out, his projections were so low. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I can't seem to pick the right. Like my fantasy team's not that good. My dynasty team's not that great, so I just have to pick the line of bad. However, I did get laughed at. I felt like people laughed at me for trading for DeAndre Swift, and he had a really good day. So I was.
Adam's face is like, we're doing the prediction. What's happening with the fantasy? That's my fault, though. That's my fault. All I was basically getting at is I do genuinely think it's going to be quite a field goal heavy game. I do think Harrison Butker would probably, I'd go with at least 3. I reckon the Chiefs, I reckon 23-10. Maybe
it's quite funny though about like in the last few years the teams that have gone on and beaten runs. We've every time it's been like, well, they're not that good though. You know what I mean? Like when the Steelers did it, it was like they're not that good though. Like they just seem, and it's like the same with the Chiefs this year. Like they could go 5-0, and they're 5-0. You know, everyone's going like they might win. You know, win Super Bowl, but at the same time, everyone's going, well, they're not that good. Like I don't know, they are good. Of course, they're good, but they're not. They're not blowing anyone out.
They're not high scoring. They're not exciting. Yeah. That's what it is. They're just.
Who do you think? Sorry, if the Chiefs win tonight, who do you think stays undefeated the longest between the Chiefs and the Vikings? I know the Vikings have got their bye.
Who have the Chiefs got in the next 2 games after this?
I'll have a look. Adam's face then. It's like, why? He's looking at me like
the most irrelevant thing ever. I mean,
to end on. It's exciting.
The Vikings have got the Lions the week after their
Chiefs are on the bye as well. Oh, they've done that on purpose. They're listening.
What, to us?
Yeah, the Chiefs have got the Niners, and then the Vikings have got the Lions. The drama. It's all happening.
The drama.
I love it. Man.
The script writers. It's all. They know what they're doing. But guys, thank you as always. Obviously, me and Fred will be live tomorrow with a special episode, and then there'll be plenty more content obviously coming as the London games come up. We've got Bears and Jags this week, Patriots, Jags the week after. So the games are coming thick and fast, and the content will be as well. So until then, we will see you next time.